Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Jai Shri Shri Panchatattva Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So Srimad Bhagawatam Canto 3, the status quo, Chapter 5, Vidura talks with Maitreya, verses 27 and 28. Tato Bhavan Mahatatvam Tato Bhavan Mahatatvam Avyaktat Kala Kuditat Avyaktat Kala Kuditat. I think I said it wrong. Avyaktat Kala Kuditat Vijnanatmana. Oh wait. Vijnanatmatma dehastam. Vijnanatmatma dehastam. Vishwan Vyanjams Tamo Nuda. Vishvam Vyanams Tamo Nuda. Tato Bhavan Mahatattvam Avyaktat Kala Koditat Vijnanatmatma dehastam Vishvam Vyanjams Tamo Nuda. Tato Bhavan Mahatattvam Avyaktat Kala Kuditat Choditat. Sorry, I made a mistake there. Choditat. I'm listening for Maharaja's pronunciation here, so I can correct myself. I acquiesce to his superior pronunciation. Vijnanat Matma Dehastam Vishwan Vinajams Tamo Nudaha Tato Bhavan Mahatattvam Avyaktat Kala Choditat Avyaktat Kala Choditat Vijnanatmatma dehastam Vishwan Vyanams Tamo Nudaha. Others? Tato Bhavan Mahatattvam Avyaktat Kala Choditat Vijnanatmatma dehastam Vishwam Vijnanjams Tamo Nudaha. Tato Bhavan Mahatattvam Avyaktat Kala Choditat Vijnanatma atma dehastam Vishvam Vyanjam Stamo Nudaha. Now I'm going right to text 28. So Pyamsa Guna Kalatma Bhagavat Dristi Gochara Atmanam Vyakorod Atma Vishvasyasya Shish Krishaya Ya Shishka Shish Shaya Jnana Atma Unalloyed goodness. Atmadehastam situated on the bodily self. Vishvam complete universes. Vyanjan manifesting. Tamahanudha the supreme light. I wanted to go over the synonyms for 28 too, because I really love the word for word person. We're really learning Sanskrit by doing it. It's quite enlightening over the years. Sa, that Mahatattva. Api, also. Amsha, Purusha, plenary expansion. Guna, chiefly the quality of ignorance. Kala, the duration of time. Atma, full consciousness. Bhagavat, the personality of Godhead. Dristigochara, range of sight. Atmanam, many different forms. Vyakorot, differentiated. Atma, reservoir. Vishvasya, the future entities. Asya, of this. Shishkrishaya, generates the false ego. Translation for 27 and 28. Thereafter, influenced by the interactions of eternal time, the supreme sum total of matter called the Mahatattva became manifested. And in this Mahatattva, the unalloyed goodness, the Supreme Lord sowed the seeds of universal manifestation out of his own body. Repeat after me. Thereafter, influenced by the interactions of eternal time, the supreme sum total of matter called the Mahatattva became manifested. In this Mahatattva, the unalloyed goodness, the Supreme Lord, sowed the seeds of universal manifestation out of his own body. Number 28. Thereafter, the Mahatattva differentiated itself into many different forms as the reservoir of the future entities. The Mahatattva is chiefly in the mode of ignorance, and it generates the false ego in its plenary expansion. It is a plenary expansion of the personality of Godhead with full consciousness of creative principles and time for fructification. Repeat after me. Thereafter, the Mahatattva differentiated itself into many different forms as the reservoir of the future entities. The Mahatattva is chiefly in the mode of ignorance, and it generates the false ego. It is a plenary expansion of the personality of Godhead with full consciousness of creative principles and time for fructification. Purport. In due course of time, the impregnated material energy was manifested first as the total material ingredients. Everything takes its own time to fructify, and therefore the word kala choditat, influenced by time, is used herein. And we all know Krishna says, time I am. So he does control every living entity through his agency of time. The Mahatattva is the total consciousness because a portion of it is represented in everyone as intellect. The Mahatattva is directly connected with the supreme consciousness of the Supreme Being, but still it appears as matter. The Mahatattva, or shadow of pure consciousness, is the germinating place of all creation. It is pure goodness with the slight addition of the material mode of passion, and therefore activity is generated from this point. The Mahatattva lies between pure spirit and material existence. It is the junction of matter and spirit, wherefrom the false ego of the living entity is generated. All living entities are differentiated parts and parcels of the personality of Godhead. Under the pressure of false ego, the conditioned souls, through parts and parcels of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, claim to be the enjoyers of the material nature. This false ego is the binding force of material existence. And we all know when we are coming from a place of false ego, it burns us. It's like a fire. We're in the me. We're kind of defensive. We can be clinging, we can be demanding, we can be expecting so many things. We can take ourselves away and become aloof and isolated when we're in the false ego. But when we're in Krishna Bhakti and we're in the consciousness of being part and parcel of Krishna, then we are full of compassion, just like Srila Prabhupada it says in the prayer, full of compassion for the fallen souls. We want to share Krishna with everybody. So it's such a difference, this nature of Buddh, the intelligence. It's so different from coming of a place of defensive false ego. So to be defensive generally means we are thinking we're identifying with the body. We're identifying with something that is not us. So therefore we have to be full of fear. The Lord again and again gives the bewildered conditioned souls a chance to get free from this false ego, and that is why the material creation takes place at intervals. So manifestation comes and we get another crack at totally developing love of Krishna, especially in this human form of life. It's specially meant for that. He gives the conditioned souls all facilities for rectifying the activities of the false ego, but he does not interfere with their small independence as parts and parcels of the Lord. What is this independence? This independence is he allows us to either choose to love him or to not love him. This is all there is. Everything else is we're bound by karma. We're bound by time. We can't be free of this birth, death, old age, and disease. We can't. We think we can. We think we can. And when Maharaj Pariksit was asked, what is the most amazing thing? It was actually Yudhisthira in that questions at the lake. He was asked, what is the most amazing thing? And he said, well, everyone's going to die, but no one thinks that it'll happen to them. They're not aware of that consciousness. So now we've been given another chance to focus ourselves on Krishna and use our independent free will by giving it to Krishna and say, this is the only gift I have is this free will, and I'm turning it over to you. because I love you and I trust you and I want to devote myself to you. I don't need this free will. You've given it, it's a temptation. This free will is taking us away. Thy will be done. So let Krishna's will be done. And we give that free will. He doesn't interfere. That's the part. It's our independence. It's isolating us. That free will. I know for a while I was completely horrified to think, what? No free will? I don't know how I can tolerate the idea of no free will. But the only way of tolerating it is just give it to Krishna. Surrender my will to Krishna. I don't need that. That's going to take me, as Prabhupada said, our whereabouts is unknown. My will take me into some crazy space. So in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 14th chapter, Bhagavad Gita 14.3 in the purport, it explains, this is an explanation of the world. Everything that takes place is due to the combination of kshetra and kshetra gyan, the body and the spirit soul. This combination of material nature and the living entity is made possible by the Supreme God himself. So we are embodied, we're put into these bodies, we're given a vehicle. It's like he gives us everything we need. Everything. We have the mother, we have the father, and then they take care of us, and then we grow, and we have a mind which develops. But how we apply all that has been gifted to us, we have the freedom to choose. Do I want Krishna, or do I want to just be the biggest, strongest person and develop my mind and make a lot of money and go for opulences? You know, this is a choice that we have. There's a choice that we have. And to lord it over the material nature, to become wealthy, to become wise, to become famous. These opulences, Prabhupada says, puffed up by borrowed plumes. Because even if we come to the pinnacle of success, the pinnacle, we could become one of these tycoons. Practically, we could book a rocket to Mars. Now they're literally having a lottery that you can book a rocket to supposedly going to Mars, you know, and you can pay millions of dollars for this. So they're thinking, okay, now I have access to interplanetary travel. But what will happen if it blows up on the launch pad? What will their brilliant lots of money get them at that point? Their independence, their false ego. Now they have lots of money, now they want fame. You know, whatever they don't have, they want that too. But no matter what happens at the time of death or old age, it's like I'm watching, and I know I say this every time, I'm watching my dear mother, who was so vibrant and what a personality, you know, head of the cheerleaders, like that kind of rah-rah, you know, always positive. Like her philosophy was, if you don't mind, it doesn't matter, you know, really a positive thinker. And old age has reduced her to such a position. My hero is reduced. So if we think it's not going to happen to us, it's actually extremely enlightening. You know, like in India or in different places where everything's right out there and you see all aspects of life, death, old age, and disease, poverty, you see all of this right there, you become much more serious. It's like, really, this is what I have to look forward to? I better get serious now while I still can, while I have the wherewithal, I have the intelligence. Even the mind is going. She's having a hard time keeping the date in her mind. And it does seem to be a big fixation. The calendar and the date is a big fixation. So we need to get serious now while we can, while we have our faculties. And we need to realize that all of these faculties, they're Krishna's. They're Krishna's property. This body is Krishna's property. This mind is Krishna's property. Everything we have, all our wealth is on loan. Even if, you know, if we have or we have not, it's all on loan. And if we have that attitude of gratitude, like, thank you so much, dear Lord, what can I do? Not praying, oh, now I want, there's that song by Janis Joplin, oh Lord, I need a Mercedes-Benz, all my friends have Porsches, and I must make amends. So many living entities are praying for their next fix. That means this is what I want. They're looking for the Kamaduk, the Kamadena, or the Kalpatru, the desire tree. They want to manufacture something out of nothing. They're watching movies like The Secret, and like you could just manifest it in your mind by desiring it. Well, yes, you can. You can be a yogi and you can manifest all of these things, but how do you use it? You use it in Krishna's service. Whatever you need, Krishna will provide it to you. And once we take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we don't have to fear all of these things. We don't have to worry about what's on the news. Somebody sent me a thing yesterday and it kind of blew my mind because I don't read much of the internet news stuff, but it was about Hawaii. So all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, I got to read this. And is this fake? Is this not fake? I was all of a sudden really attentive because suddenly it might affect us. I don't know if it's real, but I do know. My mother was telling me that there was a Russian freighter, a big ship or something outside of Kauai. So I really took it seriously. I was like, oh my goodness, that the Japanese are, they're warning us if that China and Russia are thinking about taking Hawaii. That I don't know if it's fake news or not. No, but this is the thing. No, but I'm just saying this is what's out here. This is the stuff that's out here to bewilder us. If generally I don't expose myself, but because my mother, Mataji Uvacha, said something and then it comes on the internet, right away I'm distracted. Instead of thinking of Krishna, instead of thinking of Krishna, I automatically turn my focus onto, oh no, and I become identified with Hawaii, identified with my material. Even I had a dream last night. I was affected. I was not Krishna conscious. I have to be honest with you. I blooped. I went into fear-based situation. And it's like, thank goodness for Mangalartik. And then it's like a recalibration in 16 rounds. We recalibrate ourselves and turn our will back over to Krishna. Thank you, Lord, for this process of sadhana bhakti. It's just like such a relief. It can wipe the fear, false ego, identification with being American, being from Hawaii, being Hawaiian, being, oh no, all of this fear-based stuff. No, we're Krishnas. And Prabhupada said, if even the atom bomb comes, we say, Krishna has come. We're just surrendered. And if we're really surrendered, it doesn't burn like fire. This false ego business does not burn like fire. I know I was in India when I got this terrible message that there was a false alarm here in Hawaii that there were Korean missiles coming. It was 20 minutes of hell, I heard. My sister was telling me she was trying to figure out what to do with the grandkids. And it came on all the smart cell phones in Hawaii. Everyone all of a sudden was trying to figure out, what do you do if missiles are coming to Hawaii? And you don't have much time. And it was somehow a complete, total false alarm. False alarm, like whoops. So it tests us. These things test us. Are we thinking of Krishna? Or are we not? Are we who and what are we identifying with? So I failed on that one. I even had a bad dream. And it made me feel like I need to be more serious this morning. I really do need to be more serious and get myself back to enough of this stuff.
Were you blown up in your dream?
No, but I was scared. Yes. And like an animal, like a bird, hyper vigilant. And was very frightening. Anyway, back to Bhagavatam. Jai Shri Shri Bhagavatam Shri Shri Panchatattva Shri Shri Sadhana Bhakti process. Oh my goodness, it's really our saving grace. It just keeps us from this insanity of false identity. This false identity. So the Mahatattva is the total cause of the total cosmic manifestation and the total substance of the material cause, in which there are three modes of nature, and it is sometimes called Brahman. So this Brahma Jyoti, it says in the Bhagavatam that it's like the unmanifest, it's like uncombined material nature, that they're eternal particles of Krishna, this glowing effulgence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and as he desires, he churns it into form, just according to his own sweet will. He gives us another crack at coming to love him. He can manifest all this beauty, all this grace, his internal potency, loving pastimes. If we could think of that, thinking of loving pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in Goloka Vrindavan, the villagey pastimes of the calf's hoof prints in the sand and the dust that's being raised by the cows coming home from the pasturing grounds and falling on the body of Krishna. And what is Krishna doing now? Is he playing his flute to call the cows or call the gopis? Let's be thinking of what is Krishna doing. The Supreme Personality impregnates that total substance, and thus innumerable universes become possible. This total material substance, the Mahatattva, is described as Brahman in the Vedic literatures. The Mundaka Upanishad 119, Tasmad etad Brahmanama Rupam Anamchad Jayate. The Supreme Person impregnates that Brahman with seeds of the living entity. The 24 elements, beginning from earth, water, fire, and air, are all material energy, and they constitute what is called the Mahad Brahman, or the great Brahman, the material nature. In Bhagavad Gita 13, 8 through 12, it says in the purport, the embodied soul is entrapped by the body, which is a casing made of 24 elements, and the process of knowledge is described here as the means to get out of it. Of all the descriptions of the process of knowledge, the most important point is described in the first line of the 11th verse. And here, this picture here is an ancient medieval sketch that we see over and over again about man's attempt to get out of this universe. And it's quite interesting to see, that he's trying to reach through and break through the bonds of this material nature. Maye chananya yogena bhaktir avyabhicharini. The process of knowledge terminates in unalloyed devotional service to the Lord. So if one does not approach or is not able to approach the transcendental service of the Lord, then the other 19 items are of no particular value. This is where Prabhupada explains that if you add one Krishna in the front of all the zeros, all of a sudden all the zeros have value. We have so much, but if we don't add Krishna to our life, it's completely a waste. It's like we've wasted our human form of life. That's the big thing about the human form of life, that we get the opportunity again, get another chance, we get a do-over. We get a chance to choose Krishna. So wonderful. Such a lucky birth, this human birth. And what are we doing? So many people are wasting it. They're just eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, just like animals. And they're going through this vicious cycle, this samsaric birth and death, old age and disease, over and over and over again. But we have an opportunity. And I was just reading the other day that the spiritual master literally initiated a disciple on the deathbed, to make an eternal commitment to helping that soul. I mean, that is real mercy, you know, Jai Shri Shri Panchatattva Ki Jai. You know that that spiritual master isn't thinking, oh yes, this disciple is going to do many things for me. It's going to serve me nicely. No, they're not thinking like this. Obviously, they're thinking, we're going to help this soul. We're to start their spiritual life, and we're going to help this soul make the best transition possible. So that was very, I really appreciated the mercy of this individual upon their decision. But if one takes to devotional service in full Krishna consciousness, the other 19 items they automatically develop with them. It's we met these really wonderful young men who, from the very tender age, they weren't taught anything but Srimad Bhagavatam, nothing but Bhagavatam. And the particular young men were, they actually graduated from college very, very early, because when you open the Chit Shakti in the heart through the access of Bhagavatam, then all of a sudden you become like a Digvijay, really, really, really smart. But the source of all knowledge is Krishna. So if you focus on Krishna, automatically all these other things come. Intelligence comes, all of these things come. You don't have to make a separate endeavor. The Lord in the heart dictates to you. And if you just are developing that relationship with your Paramatma, it's not required to do all these external things. Prabhupada even called school slaughterhouse. It's a slaughterhouse because it offers you so much opportunity, just like Hiranyakashipu's teachers. What were they teaching? They were teaching economic advancement, material development, sense gratification. That was what they were teaching. So school isn't necessarily giving you Atma Gyan, knowledge of the soul. They're simply helping you identify more and more, and that knot in the heart tightens. Prabhupada really, he hammers this home to us, as Maharaj calls it, is the pounding the post method. If you didn't get it, let's pound that post a little bit more and a little bit more, a little bit more, and then pretty soon you're in there. You're fixed, very, very strongly fixed in this knowledge. Prabhupada, and there's so many things as a young devotee, I felt like, I was so romantic. I believed in love, and I believed in all this romantic sense gratificatory things. I did. I was very much smitten by the idea of love, and I could not accept that there is no love in the material world. It was like, perish the thought. It was like somebody said the worst possible thing to me, that there's no love in the material world. I couldn't believe it. I wouldn't believe it. But we're talking about applying a spiritual practice on a mundane thing. It's like you can't get blood out of a stone. It's not possible. And I'm trying to apply something spiritual to matter. It's impossible. So it took me a long, long, long time. And then I realized that I only have eyes for Krishna, because all these wonderful personalities that are there that we have to select from, they're not Krishna. And we have a God-shaped hole in our soul that only Krishna will be able to fit into and unlock all that love in our heart. We don't have a human-shaped hole in our soul. Some kind of mystical relationship's going to come about. No, there's going to be so much dissatisfaction and discord in any relationship that isn't Krishna Bhakti centered. There will be discord, and there will be difficulty, and there will be isolation and separation and all kinds of things that happen along the trail. And then we'll realize, oh, this is business. It's like a business. We are what we negotiate. We're negotiating the relationship. That's what we're doing. We're learning to communicate and negotiate a relationship. What is there? Where's the love? You can develop genuine affection. You can develop trust. But real love is there with the most perfect of perfect beings, and that is Krishna. So in the Bhagavad Gita 13, 6 and 7 purport, Srila Prabhupada says, from all the authoritative statements of the great sages, the Vedic hymns, and the aphorisms of the Vedanta Sutra, the components of this world can be understood as follows. First, there is earth, water, fire, air, ether. These are the 5 great elements, the Mahabhuta. Sorry, I missed some of these slides. I have so much fun picking the pictures, but it looks like I missed some of the pictures on this slideshow. Then there are false ego, intelligence, and the unmanifested stage of the 3 modes of nature. Then there are the 5 senses for acquiring knowledge, the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin. My great aunt, in the last year of her life, she was blind and deaf. Can you imagine being blind and deaf? And this is a sighted person. She was accustomed to seeing and hearing, but in the last year, due to diabetes, she was blind and deaf. What an interesting problem that would present. It would be based on memory, just functioning, and you would have to be taken care of. Then 5 working senses, the voice, legs, hands, anus, and the genitals. Then above the senses, there is the mind, which is within and which can be called the sense within. Therefore, including the mind, there are 11 senses altogether. Then there are the 5 objects of the senses, smell, taste, form, touch, and sound. Now the aggregate of these 24 elements is called the field of activity. If one makes an analytical study of these 24 subjects, then he can very well understand the field of activity. This is the Ketra Gyan, this is the field, and we are the knower of the field, the witness of what goes on in the field. And we can direct what exactly we're going to do. But when we turn to Paramatma, the soul turns to Paramatma and takes direction from Krishna, then we are connected. We're connected to Source. We're giving our will over. We're not acting on a level of the burning false ego, the defensive animal false ego. When it gets really elevated, and it's really like we were talking about in previous verses, when you're very elite and you have much wealth and much knowledge and you're quite a gracious being, then we're very much after pratista, fame, adoration, and distinction. They're extensions of the sex desire. The extensions of sex desire goes into opening hospitals and doing philanthropic work. But what is it really? Will it liberate people? Will it liberate? No, this Krishna conscious movement is the real liberating, this Maha Mantra, this portable Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Even at the time of death, it will save us. Then this is the last slide. This is the false ego slide. Oh my God. Then there is desire, hatred, happiness, and distress, which are all interactions. Are interactions, representations of the 5 great elements in the gross body. The living symptoms represent by consciousness and conviction are the manifestation of the subtle body, mind, ego, and intelligence. These subtle elements are included within the fields of activity. It states in the Bhagavad Gita that this pratista is the last snare. This false ego is the thickest. There's earth, water, fire, air, mind, intelligence, and false ego. And the material covering is such that the earth layer is the thinnest of all the layers. It's dense, 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 but it is the thinnest. And then comes earth, water. That layer of water is 10 times thicker than the earth layer. And then earth, water, fire. Fire is 10 times thicker than the water layer. It's like you're going through these, you're traveling through these layers of the material covering of the universe, each layer being 10 times thicker than the other. And that last layer of pratista, false ego, where, yes, I have done so much wonderful work in the world. I've benefited so many beings, I've become heroic and I've done wonderful things. That layer, even if it's in the mode of goodness, so that we have to come back and enjoy the wonderful benefits of our great activities, binds us here. So Prabhupada said, the mode of goodness is compared to dry stool. Dry stool. The mode of ignorance is like wet stool. It smells, it's nasty, it attracts flies. Dry stool doesn't smell, it's no longer attracting flies. It can be used as fertilizer, but what is it? It's dry stool. That's what it is. And that's goodness in the material world. It's simply chewing the chewed, hackneyed, do-over. We're doing it over again. This material body, this lump of ignorance, what am I going to do with it today? Am I going to serve Krishna, or am I going to serve my false ego? What will I do today? I want us all to choose Krishna. Hari Bo. Of the Lord, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. It's so simple and sublime. This process is so simple and so sublime. And it just takes one human life. That's all. Just to dedicate one human life to the Supreme Personality of Godhead forever and ever and ever. Hare Krishna. Any questions or comments? Yes, Aditi.
First of all, thank you for the wonderful presentation. Always amazed when you find all these pictures.
I left a few out accidentally. No, I have really fun. I can't believe I left some out because I do have a lot of fun finding them.
You mentioned about the false ego.
Yes.
Two questions, maybe they're connected. So the false ego, when you say, which means there is also true. Because whenever you say ego, which means we identify that it's not really good, it's bad in the sense, oh, this person is so ghostly, which is not good. So if there is true ego, then
The true ego is the soul. It's the I am, who I really am, part and parcel of Krishna. That's true and pure. We're not just to merge with Krishna. We have our simultaneous oneness and difference from. Differentiated was the word that Srila Prabhupada used here. Differentiated. So in the dance of the soul with the super soul of, Jivatma with Paramatma, that dance of between, that's true. That's the true self. The false self is I am this woman, body, Hawaiian, American, false self. This is the false self, false identification.
on the other hand, we will say, oh, I'm the devotee of the best or the Krishna.
Yes.
The Supreme Personality, it's I'm the best. It's also I go on
Pride.
say, oh, everybody should serve me.
Yeah, pride.
Listen to me because
Right.
we are the best.
Well, pride is not an attribute, and we know that when the gopis felt a little proud of here they are, intimate associates of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Nagapatni was telling us a story just a couple days back that Krishna left the rasa dance, and they were searching hither and thither, high and low, because he was not interested in pride. That's the last thing he's going to be interested in, pride. He hid out in the Aishwarya form, forearm form of Vishnu. Narayan. And they were saying, have you seen Krishna? They're looking here and there. Where is Krishna? Have you seen him? They weren't even recognizing, except for she's told the story that when Srimati Radharani came by, he couldn't keep up the act. He couldn't keep in his Vishnu form. He had to pop out. He just could not maintain it because her love purchased him, not pride. I am the best devotee. This is a big problem. Serve me because I'm a high class devotee. No, this is not our line. This Shikshashtakam, left by Lord Chaitanya, proves that our position is humbler than a blade of grass. And in this way, we can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly to be the best and proud devotee. Not going to work very well. Does that answer it? You're welcome. Hare Krishna. Yes?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So going back to your example about the false alarm and how you felt scared, right? And you attribute that to like a bodily identification. Well, my question is, so if you're fully Krishna conscious, does that mean when you go like bungee jumping or you go on a roller coaster ride that you don't feel even a little bit scared? And the way I think about this is that we may not identify with the body, right? But we're still embodied, which means we still experience the sensations of the body, like pain, right? Even though we may not identify with the body, if we break our leg, it still hurts, right? So being embodied, right? Because this body has certain physical reactions to a particular stimuli, right? When you're in a particular situation, your heart might automatically quicken, right? And certain chemicals may be released, which give you a certain kind of a sensation. And even if you may not identify with the body, you still experience that sensation, right? So even though you felt scared in that dream, right, it may not necessarily be because you identify with the body, it's simply because you're embodied and you experience what it's like to be embodied.
Yes, the spirit soul having a human experience.
Right.
We are in this vehicle, certainly, and that's why this process of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, it really comes in handy. I mean, there was a time that I thought I was dying in India. I was so sick, and I was so worried that I didn't even have the energy to chant. But the holy name is such, because it doesn't even take energy to chant. You can chant in your mind. And just with that angst, the Lord comes and fills us. So he protects us even when we have no capacity to do anything for ourselves. For a devotee, there's forgetfulness and remembrance. And if we may, like the gopis curse Lord Brahma, why did you make eyelids? I mean, this sucks huge. That blink of an eye that I can't see Krishna with, and that's the gopis having, this is what it is. We have this experience of having eyelids or having the flutter of the heart or the adrenaline pumping through our system, but in the next second, the devotee is using their intelligence and their dedication and their devotion to remember Krishna. And that's the vipralamba bhav, the forgetfulness or the separation from Krishna for a second. It's like, oh, I can't live without you, Krishna. So the devotee desperately comes back to Krishna. Like, no, this can't be going on. I can't forget you. I can't live without you. So even with all of these were onslaughts of material nature, Prabhupada calls them. I mean, I love that. Onslaughts of material nature. It's like the onslaughts of material nature are coming on, and we may be bewildered. Even Arjuna, he in the Leela of Bhagavad Gita, he had so that all other living entities could benefit by the recitation of Bhagavad Gita, he felt bewildered. But he was Krishna's friend. He was an eternal associate of the Lord. He can't really be bewildered. But for the yoga maya, or the internal potency of the Lord, the pure devotees will even be bewildered, because in the next second they're crying for Krishna. Please, Krishna. Even Draupadi, she was trying to keep on her sari, looking at her husband's, what the heck, you're not taking care of me, what's going on? Finally, it's glorious, it's dramatic. The final surrender, the coup d'etat, the complete surrender to Krishna. This is for which we are always anxious. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Nagapatni?
Thanks very much, class. I just wanted to add a little to your discussion on the free will.
Yes.
And that free will is also such an integral part in really relationships.
Yes.
And that, like, for example, the two people are trying to put together, and neither of them have any interest in being with each other. It's not love. You know, sometimes, like, for example, we have to go to work, we have to have a job, and we go there, but there's no love, and it becomes that four-letter word, work.
Yeah, that other word, yes.
But when two people are, for a devotee, that's so important to Krishna, is that the devotee wants to do that service, wants to give that love and devotion. That's the essence that Krishna's looking for.
Yeah. Yes, always anxious. Hare Krishna. All glorious to Srila Prabhupada. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.